in St. Petersburg, and St. Pete is my hometown. I grew up here in the 40s and 50s when there were about 179,000 people in Pinellas County. I lived out in the old northwest section, and I went to St. Paul's downtown. For 9 years, I took the city bus, 2 buses to get there, for every school day. So I remember those days real well because often I had to give up my seat to the elderly. I was taught that very young. And what I find now is that it's just the opposite. That, unlike now, I observe the buses at peak times that have few or none on the buses. And I tell you, honestly, I mean, I'm out there on street corners, sign waving and protesting this issue, so I see a lot of buses. I know that right now we have about less than 3% of our population, which is now up to, almost 1,916,000 in 2010 was our population now. So it went from when I was a kid to now, from 179 to 900, and yet the buses were full then, and now they're barely full. PSTA has this concept of calling the buses a smart bus. And I say, a smart bus is a full bus. and really and truly, I mean, there ought to be a way for us to manage the bus system in a way that we have full buses where people have to give up their seat to the elderly. In all due respect, I will be 92, maybe not riding the bus. And this ridership decline has happened at a time when the economy is down, the gas prices are up, and we're still seeing either a drop in our ridership. So we can't really expect either for buses or for light rail to have a huge increase. I spent over 30 years in corporate America. I was in the conventional department store business. I'm used to looking at P&Ls and flow charts and estimates and attaining plans and projections and so forth. As an executive vice president, I ran a business of over $800 million, and so I had an inventory control over $200 million at any given point, and a whole bunch of full-time equivalents that reported to me, and buyers and merchandisers. So when I look at the budgets and the structure of PSTA, it really is concernful to me, because what I see is that this whole light rail issue is more of a backdoor bus bailout than it really is about light rail. I have my own business now in retirement, and I have, it's been totally interrupted basically by trying to get the word out to our citizens about what's going on with this thing. And in fact, just about a week ago or so, I was on a street corner and sign waving, and we rolled up to a red light, a young African-American couple. They rolled down the windows and they said, they want to do this. They want to push this on us, but I can't get a raise as a city worker. And I responded, and not only are you not going to get a raise, but they're going to raise your taxes to do this. So I just think that this ought to be, reconsidered. I have to say that I've been doing this for several months now, and there are many people in this audience that relinquish their time to me and beyond that have been there stalwart every day, every other day, trying to get the word out about this. My husband and I go to groups, citizens groups, and service organizations, and explaining what's coming down the pike here. And I have to tell you, I have not seen this kind of outrage, really, since the health care issue. And as we speak, in the Supreme Court, they're arguing that right now. That's how popular that was. So, I want to say also that it was about a year ago, I was over at the epicenter where they were starting to do this discussion, and I was really taken aback because this young girl, really nice, very perfect girl, in a little, polo shirt with an insignia on it, saying she's a facilitator or whatnot, gets up there and says, okay, now we're gonna break down into groups, into caucus groups here, workshop groups, and I'm gonna ask you all to dream big. You know, and I said, whose money are they dreaming big on? You know, and this has become not a big dream, but a big nightmare. This nightmare, as I see it, has already cost $4 million to put together. I don't know how much that shirt cost, you know, in that $4 million. But the point is that we've already spent $4 million on a study. So I asked the question, you know, how can responsible people really embark on something like this? Unless they think it's a trend, you know, that it's a trend. Well, coming from retail where I had spot trends, I say this is the hula hoop after the hula hoop was, you know, was popular. Light rail is no longer popular. People who have done it, you know, discover that it is just an enormous drain. It is something that they get locked into forever, and that it is not really serving a purpose. So I ask you then, how can responsible people authorize $300,000, which just happened last week, as I understand it, to spiff up the image of PSTA? I mean, I don't know how we can do that. And by the way, as I understand it, and this gentleman up here was talking about jobs in Pinellas County, that young man, this was awarded to a Hillsborough County group. We didn't even get this to people from Pinellas. So I wonder about how responsible these actions are. And you all might remember this. It wasn't too long ago that Newt Gingrich was here in Florida proposing a colony on the moon to bail out the NASA. Mitt Romney, without hesitation, responded that if anyone worked for him that proposed such a harebrained idea, he would summarily fire him. Well, that's exactly how the public feels about this idea. I can tell you, we are out there and we're talking to people. They do not want this. And Charlotte is often touted as a successful light rail. The first 9 miles, which was part of the master plan, in Charlotte cost $40 million a mile to build in 2005. They needed to extend it, you know, because of the requirements and the master plan and what have you. And now the projected costs are $100 million a mile. They can't afford it, they're not going to extend it. So we're just asking you to cease and desist, and that you abandon any plans to put this on the ballot. And you know, I'm not sure what the plan is or what the discussion has been, but if you want a special election, which would be countywide, we're talking in the neighborhood of $800,000 to over $1 million to execute a general election countywide that is not part of a general election. If it were a special election, it would cost in that neighborhood. So I would say that I would hope that you would think the better of that. In the end, I just want to say I thank you again for this opportunity, but I do believe that if we proceed with this, that what we are serving is not the people, but we are serving egos, politicians, special interests, eminent domain lawyers, and I ask you to please abandon this idea and don't consider putting it on the ballot, and thank you again.
Hi, Barbara. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you. Very nice to see you.
Yes.
So glad that you're here today.
Thank you.
And I really want to say on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for keeping the public comments at the beginning. We really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
There was a lot of work that went into getting everything rounded up, and so we really appreciate that.
No problem.
And
you've all been very good on keeping the time. So
thank you.
Thank you.
And I feel that I probably won't take the entire 10 minutes.
Okay.
But I just want to say too that I am so proud to be associated with this group of people. It's obvious that we have a very stellar group of professional people that make up the Tea Party in Pinellas County. And I'm just proud to be a part to sit here and to listen. However, the downside of that is they've taken all of my talking points. And what wasn't taken, Betsy certainly killed. So she did such an excellent job. But I do want to say, first of all, just a couple of things that come to my mind, and that is in attending the PSTA board meeting the other day, that the auditor did say that ridership is flat, and that really struck me, because I know there's been some talk with the St. Pete Times and amongst the PSTA. The ridership is up, and according to the audit, ridership is flat. And so that is an important issue that I think needs to be brought out, certainly. It is stunning, I think, that at this exact moment, millions of liberty-loving Americans are watching the Supreme Court hearings as the majority of our states have band together to challenge and redress the actions of an overreaching government. For months prior to the passage of Obamacare, starting with the famous town hall meetings, citizens made their feelings known about the growing threat of nationalized health care, and the House of Representatives would not listen. As those representatives returned home for August recess in 2009, they were received by angry crowds in unprecedented numbers all over the country, and still they would not listen. They were not representing the people any longer. They were joined together in a mission, and that bond was stronger than the oath they had taken to represent the Constitution or their constituents. The House passed the 2,200-page Obamacare with a lot of last-minute deal-making, and the Senate passed it, and 2 years ago it was signed into law just about at this time. Immediately, our own Attorney General, Bill McCollum, filed the first lawsuit, and the following November, the American people followed up by throwing the offenders out of the U.S. House of Representatives. In fact, even today, 60% of Americans claim that they oppose Obamacare and want it repealed. We have watched the same process play out to our despair locally over the last 2 years as a handful of roughly 30 or less rail advocates who are determined to bring light rail to Pinellas County, manipulate the rules, stack the deck, game the system. A system most of them know how to play because they've been playing it for so long. We are just the pesky citizens. No amount of facts and figures will deter the rail advocates. No more than letter writing to Nancy Pelosi did 2 years ago. It was a total waste of time. You're not going to change their mind with the facts. I have here in my hand a $300,000 contract that was awarded last Wednesday by the PSTA at their board meeting to a public relation firm by the name of Tucker Hall out of Pinellas County. Here is a picture of the cover page. And the PSTA Public Transportation Educational Messaging and Branding Contract. Now, I just referenced some parts of this. You can see that I have some highlighted parts, and obviously I cannot go through a half an inch thick, nor would anyone want me to, I'm sure. But I did go through and pick out some parts here that have to do with this contract that has already been awarded and voted on by the PSTA board last week. And it is envisioned, I'm going to read some parts of this. It is envisioned that the selection team will review the content of the various local and regional transit plans listed above and digest into a concise and salient message that the public can comprehend. Meetings and what they expect the public relations firm to do is to take the various aspects of all of this light rail project, and some of the things will be that they will have key meetings and interviews with key political leaders, public officials, private sector stakeholders, and others will provide important background information to guide the development of the recommended strategy. Materials will be required to pursue the successful approval of a countywide referendum, likely in the fall of 2013, for a 1% sales tax for public transportation. They are going to be tasked with developing draft strategies, and we have listed here 12 key strategies that the public relation firm is to deliver for the $300,000. Starting out with identify specific strategies lead to a successful 2013 referendum that can be validated with market research and are reasonable to implement by the public and private entities within the available timeline. Strategies should be identified to address the following issues. I'm not going to go through the 12. As you can see here, I've picked out just a few that I think are especially egregious. Number 5 being, how should transportation investments included in the various plans but not funded by the proposed 1% sales tax be presented? Should the messaging focus on all transportation planning or be more specific? The next one, what are strategies to respond to public fears that major transportation investments may or are likely to fail? How should PSTA's current transit services be presented? Is it better to highlight PSTA's new initiative and improvements, or should emphasis be placed on how limited PSTA services are due to a lack of sufficient funding? What short-term strategies exist to pique the public's interest in public transportation? The recent market research has shown voters have an increasingly single focus: improving the economy, creating jobs, which may be reducing the attention to other public priorities, including traffic relief and improving public transit. How can this transit funding initiative manage or even take advantage of this narrowing public attention? What immediate strategies can be used to achieve successful approval by the Pinellas Board of County Commissioners for a referendum? Now, this is just part of what $300,000 of our tax money is going for in the way of a contract to convince the voters of Pinellas County to vote yes on a referendum. So, perhaps, no matter what the people say, you too will stand with the rail advocates by failing to make a decision at your very own desk. Based on the facts and figures, the history of rail failures, and thus personally opening the door and exposing the public to a high-dollar propaganda campaign. Make sure no public dollars will be used for this campaign. No public dollars used for this campaign. No PR firms. No off-year, low voter turnout elections used. Voice your opposition now. Let your no vote be understood by those that are pushing this forward. And end the deception now. We are inviting you today, and you just received an invitation to a rail forum that we've already set up. We have Randall O'Toole coming as our special guest, who is the author of the book Gridlock. We also have Ed Grady from the American Dream Coalition, and this rail forum will be held at Feather Sound Country Club on April 29th at 2 o'clock a week. Each of you have been formally given an invitation today, and we hope that you can clear your schedule to come to that. We have come to meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and we ask you to come to this meeting and hear the other side. Thank you very much.
I want to talk to you about my first car and why Pinellas County, the rail isn't going to work. Now that's my freedom. I worked every single day from the time I was 16 to 17 to earn $1,000 to get a car. And it was the best investment of my life. It meant that I didn't have to rely on a bus to take me to where I wanted to go. I could walk out of my house, I could go wherever I wanted. I can walk out of here, I can go anywhere. I don't have to rely on public transportation. It took me a long time to get there. And I understand that it's hard for some people, but no one pays my gas bill. No one pays my car insurance. Nobody helped me earn that $1,000 for my first car. We have a public transportation system right now that doesn't work. You're not going to get the full ridership because people want the freedom to ride that, to have their own choice in their own vehicle. You're seeing buses with nobody on it. It's not because they don't go to the right places or the wrong places. If people earn that money, they buy their vehicle, and they leave. $130 million at $5,000 a car, you can give 26,000 people a car every single year, as opposed to a rail system. So 26,000 times 10, $260,000. I'm sorry, 260,000 vehicles that you can put on Pinellas County roads with the money that you want to spend on this rail tax. And you're hurting the low-income people right off the bat. This millage rate swap, you're going to take 0.73 from people who pay property tax, but what's that going to do for everybody who owns apartments? You're just going to jack up their price by 1% for everything they buy. So I don't see how the $30 million that we're giving right now to the PSDA as opposed to $130 million would be beneficial to Pinellas County residents as a whole, because it's not net neutral, and it's going to be an increased expenditure for us. We're not getting it. It's not going to small businesses. It's going to a train that's going, what, 24 miles, 16 stops. I'm not going to ride it, maybe once. See where it goes, and that'll be it. I'll take my car over somewhere and go. Thank you for your time.
Good to see you.
I don't know how many of you are aware of the last MPO report, or the last MPO meeting. At that meeting, they read a report from Senator Jack Lightbauer stating 66% of Pinellas County is against the light rail. His question was, how are you going to sell it? Pinellas County doesn't need to be sold. We're against the light rail. It's as simple as that. Why are we constantly pushing an issue that the citizens are against?
Yeah.
We used to be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now it seems like we're government of the government, by the government, and for the government. This is all tied to a regional approach that's a harebrained scheme since Hillsborough County voted it down in 2010. Get a back door in to tie all the counties together into a transportation system. The control is going to go to T-Barter, not to our local government. And T-Barter is going to institute it over the region. Well, the citizens are tired of this regional garbage. We elected you people to represent us citizens. And that's what we expect. The citizens are telling you what they want and what they don't want. It's time you guys start listening. Let's have enough of this big government, big garbage being shoved down our throats. And get back to where we're supposed to be, of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Because if not, there are going to be consequences. And a lot of it's going to be people moving out of Pinellas County because they can't afford to live here anymore. And it not only affects us, you got to remember, you guys are citizens too. And this money is going to affect you. You're not going to be in office forever. And your kids and grandkids are going to affect from this. Think about that future, not the future of transportation. We love our cars, we want our cars, and we want to keep our cars. Scrap this light rail and stop putting money into something for investigations of something we don't need, we don't want, and we won't use. Thank you.